Welcome to 30 games for $30 and over 30 years of iconic gaming lineage. Welcome to the Xbox One exclusive Rare Replay. In our official review for Rare Replay, we will be providing our experiences as well as a collective general knowledge of publications dating back 30 years. So sit back and relax, this is going to be an experience. Before we jump right into the games though, let's start off with a little overview of some of the key features to expect from Rare Replay. Games listed with a published date of before 1996 have the ability to go completely old school with the appearance of scan lines by clicking the right analog stick, a rewind mechanic straight out of Prince of Persia, and the option to add modifiers such as infinite lives. Games that originally shipped with online multiplayer such as Perfect Dark Zero and Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts retain this feature and will include most of their downloadable content. Several noteworthy Rare titles will not be included in the bundle due to licensing issues, with such classics Donkey Kong Country and the now legendary GoldenEye 007 being left out of the compilation. Outside of the core experience of Rare Replay exists Rare Revealed and Snapshots. Revealed does exactly that. It reveals hours of extras concerning the prestigious devs, and Snapshots presents additional interactive challenges involving the first 16 games in the collection. Altogether, players in Rare Replay stand to earn up to 10,000 Gamerscore across all 30 games, and certain achievements or in-game milestones will also earn stamps for the player, which are used to unlock content in Rare Revealed. Well, with all that exposition out of the way, let's begin. Released in 1983, Jetman is a shooter/rudimentary platformer where before reaching your objective, which is taking off in your rocket ship and traveling from one planet to the next, you must first defend yourself against hostile aliens. While defending yourself, you must also construct your escape module, which spawns periodically piece by piece, all the while collecting valuable resources that fall from orbit for bonus points. The years have been kind to Jetman, having been revisited many times by critics and always being revered as a crowning achievement of its time, which includes, of course, all of us here at Slit Space Games. Lunar Jetman, Jetman's successor, having been released also in 1983, largely remained the same core experience, with little to separate itself other than a moon rover and a slightly different objective of acquiring bombs and destroying alien bases, in addition to the usual seek and acquire missions of its predecessor. Lunar Jetman has a little fewer boosts for your buck, but retains the general experience of the original. Attic Attack is a flip-screen ZX Spectrum video game developed and released by Ultimate Play the Game in 1983, which of course by 1988 had evolved into Rare. Attic Attack features the playable characters the Wizard, the Knight, and the Serf, each choice allowing for alternate playstyles. Your setting is typical, a castle swarming with monsters and demons. Your mission? Track down 3 pieces of the golden key of SsG. Staying alive requires usable items to ward off the villains, and collectible food scattered about and used to replenish your lost health. Many publications since 1983 have praised Attic Attack for its genius. Even today, its charm and appeal has not diminished. Saberwolf, published in 1984, also spawned 2 sequels released in the same year. We'll get to those. Saberwolf transports players into a colorful flip-screen jungle maze in an Indiana Jones-esque adventure where you, the player, are expected to fence your way through countless hordes of tropical combatants, while in search of 4 pieces of a lost amulet, which form an ostensible wolf and allow for safe passage past the gatekeeper. Saberwolf was actually praised as a technical marvel upon its release in '84 and still exhibits some entertaining qualities to this day. In Underworld, you again take on the persona of Saberman. This sequel to Saberwolf introduces players to the 2D side view. Though Guardians and other assorted randomly generated villains' assaults never end, the real villain here is Gravity, for most falls will result in a death. The aim of the game is to navigate the new visual perspective with precision and grace, which to be honest is very difficult to do and can affect your overall experience with the game. Nightlore introduced the highly revered isometric gameplay format, creating a world vastly different from its predecessor and allowing for a very crude form of what would eventually become 3D platforming. Now cursed with lycanthropy, Saberman must use his new abilities to navigate the new and exciting realm of isometric gameplay. Night Lore is probably the most copied game in isometric gaming history and is a must-play for newcomers and enthusiasts of the genre alike. "1985's Gunfight definitely frightened us a bit. This excruciatingly simplistic and repetitive gunslinger boasts some oddities and lackluster incentives to boot. Your objective is to wander a poorly animated town and collect bounties on criminals by extinguishing them one by one with your revolver. No more, no less. If you are simply looking to kill 20 minutes while your spouse is getting ready to go to the movies, you could do worse. First released in 1986, but then re-released in 1987 on the Nintendo Entertainment System, Slalom not only was the first video game to be developed outside of Japan for Nintendo, it was also the first to be released under the Rare banner. Although not thoroughly critiqued over the years, some consider the game to feel a bit rushed and poorly executed. However, for us, racing downhill in a series of slalom races serves as an entertaining, if not one-note experience. In 1987, a historically influential and what many consider to be Rare's first successful title on the Nintendo Entertainment System was released. RC Pro-Am has been credited by many sources as the progenitor of the following classics: Super Off-Road, Rock and Roll Racing, and the Mario Kart series. Consider it going in as kind of a rudimentary Rocket League. It's good times. Cobra Triangle 1989. Consider yourself the James Bond of racing and vehicular combat, as you will be winning races, saving swimmers, and defusing bombs while avoiding logs, whirlpools, and a variety of miscreants, not to mention a giant cobra. This game is definitely a hidden wonder from the NES era. Enjoy all. "1990's Snake Rattle and Roll was praised in its time for its 3D environment, fun gameplay, and level of humor. With intricately drawn scrolling forced perspective 3D elements, relatively simple controls, and a degree of difficulty that was unexpected, Snake Rattle and Roll is surely worth your time." Not the most positively embraced entries in the Jetman series, Solar Jetman Hunt for the Golden Warship is a multi-directional shooter similar to the experience found in a game like Thrust and Gravitar. Your craft is affected by inertia but not drag. The constant struggle against gravity's pull makes stable motion challenging and steering even more so. If you are looking for a challenge, you have come to the right game. "1990's Digger T Rock Legend of the Lost City ends on a cliffhanger, and since a sequel was never produced, that tells you a little something. The game's only real contribution to gaming was an interesting animation of the character's death, which features what appears to be a time-lapse photography of Digger's body decaying with only his helmet and skeleton left in sight. You would probably do well to save this title for a particularly boring and curious afternoon. Battletoads, originally released for the NES in '91, is regarded as one of the most graphically intensive games of its generation, and an innovator designated to pave the road for what the next generation of 16-bit games will become. Not only does the game entertain through comical beatdowns and finishing attacks featuring some exaggerated tactical transformations of the main character's appendages, Battletoads is also recognized as being one of the most difficult games in existence, and a personal favorite of ours here at Slipspace Games. Though not too dissimilar from its forerunner, RC Pro-Am 2 offers a wider variety of tracks, currency-based vehicle and weapon upgrades, not to mention bonus stages. Perhaps the most innovative addition would be the game's introduction of a 4-player mode, allowing you to compete with your friends simultaneously on the couch for the first time in the series. RC Pro-Am 2 can seem a little bloated with ideas at times, but it is still an enjoyable experience. Battletoads Arcade, which is also known as Super Battletoads, was released in 1994 and was developed by Rare but published by EA. Unlike its predecessor, it's darker in theme and more graphic than the others in the series. Shockingly, it was the only Battletoads game that was not released on a Nintendo platform, due to it being cancelled. Battletoads Arcade was generally well received by critics and us here at Slitspace Games, due to its unique and mature content. Its personality and combat mixed with gore and humor will definitely keep you entertained. Killer Instinct Gold is a 1996 fighting game that was actually based on an arcade game called Killer Instinct 2. It was launched on the Nintendo 64 system and had players fight on a 2D plane that gave the opportunity for kicks, punches, and combos, much like the Mortal Kombat games at the time. Even though critics embraced the enhanced brightness, sound effects, and music, fans and critics both found that the combat and the combos were not as sharp as they had been on the original arcade version, and that Gold was missing some fan-favorite characters. So even though this game is enhanced, in many ways the original arcade version has more of what fans are looking for. In 1997, Rare put out a little gem called Blastcore. It was a frighteningly innovative new idea which combined nuclear weapons, giant robots, construction vehicles, and loud motor noises in one. Unlike other gems that revolve around destruction, Blastcore gives you a good reason for leveling the city block or bulldozing those buildings. A nuclear device is leaking and it's your job to destroy anything and everything to protect the cities. What's really impressive is that the game doesn't have any flaws to speak of, unless you're looking to play with a friend, but we won't go there. We at Slitspace highly recommend this game. Banjo-Kazooie is one of those rare titles that expands upon a classic game like Mario 64 in almost every single imaginable possible way. Banjo-Kazooie is a classic and you must play this game, period. 1999's Jet Force Gemini was met with somewhat mixed reviews upon its release, mostly concerning some quirks with jarring difficulty spikes. Even so, Jet Force Gemini has a plethora of third-person shooting, platforming, run-and-gun action-adventure complete with free three-dimensional environments, extensive levels to explore, items and power-ups to collect, towering bosses to defeat, and impressive devastation physics for its time. Oh, and did I mention 2 to 4 player deathmatch? So if you're into a challenge, you will want to check out Jet Force Gemini. Perfect Dark came out in 2000 and was Rare's unofficial sequel to the mega hit GoldenEye 007. Perfect Dark is considered to be one of the best titles that was ever released for the Nintendo 64 system. Even though the style of gameplay mimicked GoldenEye, the premise of Perfect Dark allowed for Rare to create its own spotlight. Perfect Dark's single and multiplayer component is unparalleled for its time, so we suggest here at Slitspace Games that you give it a try. Banjo-Tooie is the second installment of the Banjo-Kazooie series. Again, Nintendo claims fame to this game as you follow Banjo and friends in their quest to stop Gruntilda and her sisters. With the plot, puzzles, and gameplay all excelling past its predecessor, Banjo-Tooie is one of those feel-good games with both critics and with fans alike. With its re-release on Xbox Live Arcade and now on Rare Replay, there isn't a good reason not to play it. Though not as mechanically diverse as the Banjo-Kazooie series, 2001's Conker's Bad Fur Day features three-dimensional environments, 4-player multiplayer matches, but above all that, It introduces the M-rated squirrel that fills his game with graphic cartoon violence, alcohol and tobacco use, profanity, vulgar and in some cases extremely dark humor, and hilarious pop culture references, including several film parodies. So if you're into something excruciatingly offbeat, Conker's Bad Fur Day is right up your alley. Having been originally planned as a title for the Nintendo GameCube, 2003's Grabbed by the Ghoulies is a 3D action-adventure game with some elements of platforming. The game was met with mixed reviews at launch, and that sentiment has pretty much been carried over for the most part into 2015. We recommend you go into this one with an open mind and relatively low expectations. A launch title for the Xbox 360, Cameo Elements of Power showcases Rare's mastery of what was then newly developed hardware. Uncanny creativity and years of game development experience is truly exhibited in this creative spin on Rare's traditional platforming mechanics. Not to mention a visual style and presentation that introduced a new generation of players to Rare and the new visual fidelity made possible to console players by the Xbox 360. Cameo Elements of Power is a must-play for all who pick up Rare Replay. Well, what can I say about 2005's Perfect Dark Zero? It was a big disappointment to most fans of the original. However, I've spent some time with the game and I feel that, hey, you know what? Why not? For people who enjoyed the original, for people who enjoyed GoldenEye, for people who just plain enjoy shooters, give it a shot, you'll probably like it. Viva Pinata was originally released for the Xbox 360 in 2006. Similar to its predecessors, The Sims and Animal Crossing, Viva Pinata is a simulation game that has you create a garden from a neglected plot of land. There is no ending, nothing to win, and nothing to lose with Viva Pinata. Since you are the gardener, your only objective is to increase the value of your garden and attract the Pinata residents. With newer iterations of simulation games, if you enjoy games such as Minecraft and The Sims, then you definitely need to add this one to your collection. 2007's Jetpack Refueled is an HD remake of the original Jetpack, with a new online cooperative gameplay element available through Xbox Live. Other than this and the overhauled high-definition graphics, the core game remains largely the same. Fans of the original Jetpack series will get a lot out of this. Viva Pinata, Trouble in Paradise. Welcome to a carbon copy of the original Viva Pinata with maybe 2 additional modes? Other than that, you're pretty much looking at the same sim from the original Viva Pinata. So, if you enjoyed the original Viva Pinata, as many people do, play it. 2008's Banjo-Kazooie, Nuts and Bolts takes the basic structure from the previous adventures of our two heroes and twists a classic formula by mixing vehicles and adventure together. Despite some control issues, Nuts and Bolts is an innovative return for the forgotten stars of Banjo-Kazooie. The story is amusing, but the action is where the player's attention goes. Since it's been years since the last game, Banjo and Kazooie are slow and lazy. This is where the vehicles come into play. You need them to be able to get around and complete your tasks. The building tool for the vehicles is the core of Nuts and Bolts. It allows you to create whatever you can imagine and is easy to work with. The only requirement is for Banjo to have a seat to sit on. Other than that, let your imagination run wild. Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts is a great update to an aging series and is a joy from beginning to end. Having come to the end of our journey through Rare's extensive history, there is only one thing left to say about this rare and iconic compilation. If you own an Xbox One and are remotely interested in exposing yourself to your heritage as a gamer and having a great time while doing so, you need to add Rare Replay to your next generation collection of past gen titles. Enjoy, everyone!